time for the Mayo Jam.
Welcome to the Mayo Jam Podcast. My name is Ashumi Jain and I'll be your host for today's episode. We'll be chatting with someone very, very interesting and very, very well known in the entertainment industry. For over 2 decades, he has conceptualized and led the design and delivery of exciting world-class arts, culture, and entertainment destination and marquee events. He has accumulated a diverse wealth of experience in Canada, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. And developing a vision to legacy and strategic long-term plans has been an important part of that process for him. Let's welcome Mr. Abhishek Mathur, who's based in the UAE, in Dubai, and is responsible for creating world-class events. A few of them I like to name before we get him on the mic is the world's first Bollywood theme park, the FIFA World Cup, and he even produced lots of concerts, especially for Coldplay. Let's welcome Mr. Abhishek Mathur. Hi, Mr. Abhishek.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, so I want you to first start off with, let's begin with the years in Mayo and what batch were you in? What house were you in, if you could tell us that?
Absolutely. I'm from the batch of 1989, and I started in Mayo in the second term, January 1982, in Durgadas House.
Okay.
In prep school. And then I moved to Kashmir House in middle school. At that time, we didn't have Oman House. And then I went to Ajmer House for my 11th and 12th.
Perfect. And I wanted to know that, what was it growing up in Mayo like? Spent a lot of your years in Mayo. So what was it like growing up in Mayo?
Mayo was quite a challenge in the beginning. In particular, I was a staff child. So that was a big black mark against me, I think, in the beginning because, nobody wants to make friends with a staff kid because he'll go and tattle and snitch. But, and I was a very shy kid to begin with. I didn't speak Hindi, couldn't read or write Hindi, just moved back from overseas. So it was a bit of a struggle, but I think the family having been in the school for many years, just, it is and was the best school that there ever was. And for me, I think learning about my culture in a subtle way, not having it in our face, because in Mayo you were never very Indian, at least back then. And however, you experience the culture growing up.
I think we're still very strong on our traditions and culture, which very indirectly, we don't realize it, but it's all embedded in all of us.
Yeah, it's like going to the temple, although you don't know the prayers, you recite them or you memorize them, but I personally didn't know what they meant. But it was a part of our routine. Yeah. And so it became a very sort of a special part of our routine, I'm just giving you one example.
Even the traditional attire, what you would wear at the
Safa,
prize giving.
Yes, I learned to tie my own Safa. I was a part of the Safa tying competition. And then I was a swimmer and a gymnast all through my schooling years. A very average student, as my teachers would attest to. And God bless them, they were very, very patient when it came to teaching me.
But I wanted to know this, that how did you end up in a career choice like this? Like from Mayo, was there any particular incident that now you think about it and you realize that this is something that interests me the most, or this is something I'm good at?
Absolutely. I think Mayo indirectly was the absolute cause. And I'll tell you what happened. I went to university in Toronto, and my culture shock wasn't the non-Indians. It wasn't the so-called, Westerners or what people would consider white Canadians. It was Indians living in Canada. Indians who lived there or whose parents had moved there in the 60s and were still stuck in a time warp. So every Indian, or when I say Indian, I mean Desi, Pakistani, Indian.
South Asian people.
South Asian, exactly. That's the correct term. They would always ask me, where I was from, or what was I? And I'd say Indian. They're like, what Indian? Okay, I'm Rajasthani. No, but what are you? I'm like, Indian. But what's your religion and what's your caste? And I didn't know any of that. And it took me 3 months of not mingling with the South Asian kids in university, but meeting them sort of, one-off, and everyone asking me what was I, for me to one day look through my school photographs and say, oh, Rafi Khan was a Muslim, or Ronnie was a Sardar, or Ashish Rosario was Christian. So what does that make me? And I actually broke down in tears for like 20 minutes, half an hour, as it is very homesick. But to realize that Indians outside of India could actually break me down into what I was supposed to be pigeonholed into really affected me, really upset me. So I said, okay, now I need to get involved with the Indian Student Association. And that's where I started really pushing my weight in trying to help people identify with what it meant to be Indian, even though we were living in Canada. So I got involved in student shows. So we would organize these massive productions downtown Toronto with 300, 400 students, university students participating. I learned to dance, as one does. You pick up your culture overseas. Would never have dreamt to do anything like that.
Is it the toughest part of your job that you learned how to dance?
It was the toughest, but the funnest. In Mayo, if anyone ever said to me, let's create a Bhangra team, and we'll perform, it would be a joke. It would be like, are you kidding me? All we listened to was Dire Straits and, all these other Western musical icons. And then we performed in Hindi and English plays. My Hindi was never good enough to perform in Hindi plays, but we were very Western, for whatever good or bad reason. We were very Western in Mayo. So going to Canada, realizing how the community was so fragmented there. We had the Sikhs in one corner and the Gujus and the Patels. And even in the Patels or in the Gujaratis, there was Kshatriya Gujarati and
Kathiawadi.
Oh my God, yeah. And I didn't know any of this because in Mayo, you don't.
Yeah.
I went to Dargah with my friends and everybody in school, during exam time at least, was in the temple praying to whichever god, whatever power. So it didn't matter. So that was really what got me infatuated with my culture, that I became Indian in Canada. So these shows happened every year. They were annual events in the summer holidays and everyone participated. I became the president of the ISA, the Indian Student Association, on my campus at my university. And then, and I was doing a BBA. So my course was not related to the arts at all. Mm-hmm. And then I came and worked in Dubai for a year in the perfume industry. I went back and I worked in car rentals. Then I did an MBA in arts and media management at the same university. This is Schulich School of Business at York. And that's where I think there was some element of what I learned in school, in university, that sort of shifted me further towards the arts, cultural, and entertainment industries. But after I graduated from my MBA, I decided I didn't want to work for anybody. I want to start my own thing. I want to create South Asian festivals because I was always harping on our collective culture versus the geographical boundaries of India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Nepal and all of that.
Considering they were so rich in culture, like all of them have something similar.
We are one. So yeah. I think the first thing that I created along with my partner, who's now my wife, is a festival called Masala Mehendi Masti. And that was a massive South Asian festival that ran downtown Toronto for 12 years, right in the heart of the city. And it had a very, very clear message. It was that our culture needs to be celebrated by one and all. We're Canadian first, but the culture is, a diasporic culture that is from Fiji, is from Guyana, from Trinidad, from the UK, UAE even for that matter, and of course, the subcontinent. And it was a huge success. We didn't fly any country's flag. We had artists.
It was just celebrating music and art,
music,
and
dance,
culture.
film. It was a multidisciplinary arts festival. We had over 100,000 people attend the 3-day weekend, and it was free. I mean, we paid the artists, but it was free, so everybody could participate. And I think it really did its job in putting our culture on the map. Whereas we were very ghettoized, if you've heard of Brampton and Malton and Mississauga, that's where most of the Desis were, and the Desi culture sort of lived and breathed. But we wanted to make a statement being downtown. So I think that would probably be, Mayo's influence in me in a very subtle way, but a very, very, very powerful way.
Very subconsciously you were.
Subconsciously. I mean,
whatever implicating, whatever you learned.
Yes.
Is that so?
Yeah. And I think the fact that we were so united, as students, didn't matter what I was a careful word. I was a teacher's son.
Yeah.
Not from a big business family, not with the deep pockets that my best friends may have had. But it didn't matter. Mayo was such a great leveler, and we didn't wear home clothes at the time, even on the weekends. So it didn't really matter.
Is there any specific incident that you remember on an outing, or you went out with your friends, which which is like a memory for life in your head? Like,
Yeah.
maybe something, if you like to share something like that.
I was in Kashmir House in grade 7. Had very few friends because my dad was still a teacher in Mayo. And all of a sudden, he got a job as principal of the British school in Delhi. And he left. And I went on a trip to a place called Kothari or maybe it was class 8. But my batch, Kashmir House, we went on a trip to Kothari. And all of a sudden, everybody in Kashmir House became a friend because I was no longer a staff child. And they didn't fear. I don't think they disliked me, but I think...
It was always the fear of,
Yeah. So that was a huge turning point in my life. And I was still quite shy. And it was only in the later years I was good at gymnastics, became the gymnastics captain at one time. I represented the school in swimming. So sort of fitted in here and there, whether through sports or, in the last few years, you want to try everything. So I tried debating. I got into the school play, and I was, 1 year backstage, as in working on the sets and props. And then the final year, I wanted to be on stage.
Did you realize it then that this is exactly what you enjoyed? Now, if you think about it, like considering backstage or being on the stage, being close to entertainment.
Now I look back and I think, wow, that was, those were sort of the building blocks of where my future was going to lead. I mean, I'm not a performer.
Yeah.
Although I ran Shamak Babar's classes in Canada for 4 years and set them up over there and took those classes. So ended up performing on stage with a bunch of the students. But yeah, Mayo really gave you these opportunities.
These avenues where you could just explore yourself and figure it out that maybe something like this would interest me or something like that.
But I have to say, it really had to come from myself. I don't think at that time, not all the kids were pushed. Yeah. Those who had an inclination towards acting or singing always had the
platform for it ready. Yeah.
I think that's something that I would love to see. I'm sure it's changed or it's evolved. For those who are shy and who are inhibited, if they're given a little bit more of attention to bring them out of the shadows, that would be one thing that I would love to see in the school. If it's not happening, I'm sure it is, by the way.
Let's talk about FIFA World Cup. I believe it's the biggest thing and the most latest thing that you've done around. Yeah. So I believe you had like a fan zone which you created and all of that. So let's talk about that.
So in the industry, I work as a consultant for various companies, and 1 or 2 companies in particular. And the one that I am currently most engaged with is a company called Bragg. And Bragg won the bid to create a very, very special fan zone in Doha. While they did the Budex fan zone, one of 6 official fan zones across the world in Dubai, and they did the fan city at Expo Dubai. The one that we did in Doha was primarily for the labor. Oh. So this was a very special fan zone that was created with a capacity of about 45,000 people per day at a given time. So we could have had many more through the day. And it gave the labor community a chance to access these games, these matches on giant screens with lots of live entertainment, Bollywood artists, singers, musicians, dancers.
And I'm sure 90% of them were all Indians or South Asians.
South Asians, yeah. And you'd be amazed. We think that South Asians are only into cricket, but the fandom in South Asia for soccer is unbelievable. And I think Messi and Ronaldo,
maybe we still don't have a good football team. That's the reason we keep thinking.
But I think it's inspiring us to, to enjoy soccer more and participate in soccer more. But it was very satisfying to produce an event that was specifically for them. It was open to everybody, but it was geared towards them or targeted towards them, and it was at no cost to them. Yeah. So that was a very special experience.
Okay, so I remember having a conversation with you regarding the Bollywood theme park that we spoke about. So would you like to put some light on that, what inspired you? If people have not been to Dubai and to the Bollywood theme park, there is a big gateway. There's a big arc there. So
it's a theater.
It's the theater, right?
It's like the Disney Palace of Disneyland. So we have our iconic structure right in the center.
I think it's called Raj Mahal.
Raj Mahal. Yeah. Has nothing to do with the Taj Mahal, and I'll tell you the story behind this. So I was engaged to be the lead creative and entertainment director for Bollywood Parks back in 2012. We were just 5 people in the beginning, and it was a part of the Parks and Resorts, which also includes Motion Gate and Legoland. And it was like a beautiful empty canvas that I got to work on.
And I think it's the biggest mecca for all the Bollywood fans who come to Dubai now.
Yeah, we had attractions based on attractions for Krish, Dabang, Rawan, Rock-On, Lagan, Sholay, Mughal-e-Azam, what else? Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. And so much live entertainment, because that's really what Bollywood's all about, right? So we had the chance also to design and build, or lead the creative on the icon of the park, which is called the Raj Mahal Theatre. And so what I did was I took the designers, the architects and the interior designers from here, who were from the US and from Lebanon, actually, to Mayo.
Oh.
And we literally stole elements of architecture from the main building and from Kota House. Now, I lived in Kota House during my schooling years, and I lived under one of the 4 domes. So my ceiling was this gigantic dome ceiling. And I actually used one of the Kota House domes as the main iconic architectural piece for this theatre. And it sits on top of the giant theatre. And that's my ode to Mayo.
Nice.
Some of the Jali work, my parents, I was telling you, they were staff in Mayo, lived in Kota House as well. So my mom's kitchen window was this beautiful Jali sandstone, made in sandstone. So we took the exact design
pattern of it
and used that down the central mast of the palace.
I think now I have to go there and visit it and reconnect. Is this the same one or not?
And the columns around the main building, especially
Yes.
around the principal's office and what was at that time Mr. Dahiya's office and the vice principal's office. So those columns and arches are also used at the entrance of the palace. And it's all in white. It's in white marble or white stone. So it was my personal ode to Mayo and my childhood and Rajasthan, of course, being Rajasthani. But it's fantastic because every time you drive by on Sheikh Zayed Road.
Yes,
You can see it from the highway, and it's like, there's my big Kota house, my giant Kota house.
I think we should say this to all the Mayoites there listening to this particular podcast. Next time in Dubai, Bollywood Parks is something that you really need to go visit.
True.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Anyways, I wanted to know one more thing. How would you describe your leadership styles and how much role do you think Mayo played in that? Like, I'm sure you must be leading a team of a lot of people now and all of this. What do you think there was something that really triggered this when your days back in Mayo? That then considering you were such a shy kid and all of that, do you think somewhere down it played a part?
I absolutely. My batch, I have to say, and I'm sure everyone says this about their own batch, but my batch really was the best batch Mayo ever had.
So was mine.
So batch of 89, if you're listening to this, you know who you are. But we really, really were an incredible team. And today, if you see our WhatsApp group, pretty much everybody's on it.
You meet the alumni, and how is it meeting your batchmates now?
We pick off from where we left off.
Yeah.
I mean, I've met people after 35 years, and you couldn't tell that there was a break in the friendship. But I think what was special about the batch was that, and how it impacted the way I like to lead or how I like to manage, is a lot by consensus, a lot by discussion. It's not top down necessarily. Mm-hmm. At Bollywood Parks, I had a team of almost 400. My department was 400.
Wow.
And then I've had teams that are just 3 of us,
Yeah.
So, but I've always had an open door policy, very easy to access. And I think that's how we were as 12th class kids. Our juniors, I doubt any junior could say that they would have trouble walking up to an 89 12th class student and struggle to have a conversation or to
discuss something.
Have a discussion. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So again, since you asked me, that comes to mind as probably one of the most impactful experiences that developed my leadership or my management style.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, now I wanted to know one more thing. So when you meet the alumni in Dubai, I believe you came for the one recent reunion. That's when we discovered that what a gem that we have in Dubai. And it's,
Oh, you're too kind.
no, genuinely. So that's what it is very interesting as an industry that you were in and the amount of work that you've done and how much Mayo has inspired you. So I wanted to know one more thing, that when you came for this particular alumni meet, did you realize that because there were kids who were 2015 pass out as well, and there were people from 90s, 70s batch as well. So what was that one thing, or maybe, what you just felt that, was it genuinely the spirit of Mayo, or you felt like, no, I think, over the years, there has been a difference in the school or something? Like, what was your experience? Please share that with us.
So can I tell you something? When I look at photographs of myself after an event, if there are photographs, I'm always looking for myself because I forget that I have white hair. And I truly, truly forget that I'm, over 50. And this is even more obvious when I engage with people your age, younger. And I feel I have, I really enjoy engaging with every age group. There were people at this event that you organized, which was brilliant, by the way. Everyone must hear that.
Thank you so much.
And you've been organizing so many of them, so thank you. But there were ex-Mayoites who my dad taught, whether they liked my dad or not as a teacher. They're always so respectful of him.
Yeah, that I could figure it out.
always. And
everybody had a good word to say about it. Yeah.
And in turn, they're very engaging with me, so I look up to them. But at the same time, they're more like friends. So there were people at the party who were in school who graduated the year I was born, and I was in Mayo. Well, my parents were in Mayo when I was born. So I really think that the camaraderie is only getting stronger and stronger, and the more such events that happen, it just helps it grow. The new, relatively new angle or aspect to these reunions is having girls in them, ex-Mayoites. Now, unfortunately, we don't have coeducation still, which I think is sad, and I think it would make for a much better person when you get to interact with in school on a daily basis with each other. But regardless, the fact that we have Mayo girls and a great turnout every time.
So that's why we have these alumni meets, which are common now. Because at the end of the day, it's the same family.
We are exactly the same family, not just school-wise, but
even the values, the traditions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, that's very nice then. Okay, so I want to know, is there any last message or like a piece of advice you'd like to give to the, to people wanting to come to your industry or are already working in there? Because I know a few of my Mayo alumni girls, I think they're into the sports entertainment of
Excellent.
it. Yeah.
Excellent.
And, so is there any piece of advice that you like to give it to them, or maybe the new ones which are passing out that, would want to be a part of this
I think
industry?
we really need to reach out and connect with each other and see how we can create a network within our industry. Not to leave anyone out, but to see how we can extend the industry amongst ourselves and also entice others to join. My son is studying film. He went to Mayo for 2 years as well, by the way.
Oh, nice.
But he's studying film right now. And I know in most industries, it's who you know and your connections. So with Mayo, we don't generally talk about this industry amongst Mayoites, but I know there are many who are in it, who are either in events. Somebody more treasure is in my batch, for example. There are filmmakers, Hiraz Marfatia, for example.
There are performers also who are Mayoites.
There are performers, exactly, Rahul Singh, and then Vivek Oberoi. And, but there are also musicians, and there are the people who we just don't know about what they're doing. And it'd be great if we can reach out through this platform, which is, by the way, amazing. I've been listening to the podcast. They're great and a wonderful way to learn about what people are doing.
And I think it's a good way to connect as well, because a lot of time we know that somebody is doing this, but then to hear a live interview and, hear them say things about the school and what they've learned is actually, it's everybody's story at the end of the day. Everybody has that in their head. Oh, wow, something like this. Yeah, you and I did something.
And I think
like that.
students should know that the industry is enormous. Parents should know that this industry is enormous. I mean, we still have this fear of sending students and kids into the events and entertainment industry or the arts. But if you look around, just the OTT platforms, which have exploded, the amount of content that's being developed just for television. I mean, you look, I've been watching a show called Jantara. Like, who are these actors? Where did they come from? You know, Mayo could produce actors better than them or as good as them. You know, there's a massive opportunity. Not everyone can become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, you know.
I think it's simpler to become an actor. All right, so now I want to ask you about one important aspect or a project that you were a part of, which was Global Village. Can you please tell us more about it and how did you get involved in it for the first thing? And what was the whole experience like?
So I was engaged by Global Village because of my work in Canada in arts and culture, where I was producing festivals and engaging the masses with world culture. That was my background in Toronto. So at Global Village, I produced about 12,000 shows in a 3-month period with a shoestring budget, but shows and both street shows, stage shows, stunt shows, spectacles that were from across the planet.
Yeah, so just maybe give a little brief about what Global Village is
to
people who are not visited
it's
Dubai.
It's a homegrown theme park.
Yes.
So when I say homegrown, it is Dubai's own IP. It was born in Dubai. It didn't come. It was not imported from somewhere else.
And it's a seasonal thing.
It's a seasonal annual event. It's been running for about 27 years. It started as a little tabletop carnival. Not even a carnival. It was a mela. There were people who were just selling trinkets and souvenirs on tabletops.
From across the globe.
Yeah. From around the world. There were only, I think, 12, 13 countries, mostly West Asian and India, of course, UAE. And it was along the creek, you know, on the Dera side when Dubai Shopping Festival was just a year old.
Oh my God.
Today, it welcomes over 7 million people in a 6-month season. And it is truly the most exciting destination in Dubai for anyone who wants to get a taste of the world that's kitschy, that's full of retail experiences. It's very colorful, food from all over.
Monuments from all over the
world. But it's such great value for money. So I was there for 5 years as director of entertainment. And my role was to transform what used to be a very disorganized entertainment offering to something that was world class, and you know, sort of luckily they're still following a similar format to what.
Yeah, because I remember recently we came across some really crazy performers, and it's all for free. So I remember there was one performance by Atif Aslam, and there was one day KK, and one day Sonu Nigam came and performed. So I remember, I mean, these are just the Indian artists I'm naming, but I'm sure there are lots of these international artists also.
Yes.
Great. So now I want to know one more thing about it, that since Saudi's opening up to the world.
Big time.
Yeah. So what is the entire world perspective, and where do you see the entertainment industry with Dubai being like the hub for, you know, like a melting point for every format of work, you know, like I see a lot of financial institutions coming here, for the gem and jewelry trade industry, for gold, for entertainment, for movie productions and all that. A lot of films, are being shot in Dubai. So what is the entire perspective with Saudi opening like this? You know, what is your entire take on it?
I think Dubai and Abu Dhabi and UAE in general have had a fire lit behind them by Saudi. Saudi is throwing money to sort of leapfrog and come up to par with what's happening across the world, and as quickly as they can. They have the funds, they have the vision. Don't necessarily have all the expertise and technical know-how, but they get it done. And the size and scale of projects, entertainment projects, and events that are happening in Saudi is unbelievable. Dubai is a very mature entertainment market, and you have every type of pop-up show to Broadway-style musicals, concerts and festivals and food events. Other than, aside from all the regular trade shows and exhibitions that happen here, Abu Dhabi has sort of cast itself in more of a cultural role.
Yeah, where the Louvre coming in.
Louvre already open.
Yeah.
And Saadiyat Island, and the Culture Summit happens in Abu Dhabi. They're slightly more calm and sober as compared to Dubai. But I mean, for anyone that wants to attract tourism dollars, they're just going to have to up the game as quickly as possible. And I think Saudi, in spite of the fact that there's no alcohol, they are trying to provide an offering that is unique. I mean, if you look at destinations for people to travel to, like Alula or the mountains of Abha.
It's beautiful. I believe there's a place which is as pretty as Maldives, which is completely unexplored.
The islands
Saudi.
in the Red Sea, Neom. These are all virgin, untouched landscapes that would be lucky to visit before they get commercialized. And
unaffordable.
Yeah, and unaffordable. But Saudi's trying really hard to keep their citizens from spending the $20 billion or so that they spend on traveling to Dubai, to London, to New York, and Switzerland, wherever else that they go. They want people to spend that money within the country. And with oil, eventually, it's going to run out, they say. But
that we'll have to wait and watch.
Yeah, but Saudi is a great place. I mean, there's the youngsters. I mean, I did a few projects in Saudi. The first ever Bollywood concerts, I took Jonita Gandhi and Shan and a few others in 2019. It was nerve-wracking because you weren't sure how liberal you could be.
Yeah.
But they allowed us to have women performers, dancers. I mean, It was amazing.
It's nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to know one more thing. If to conclude this particular podcast, would you think it's good, to talk about this particular thing, to go back to school and speak to the current students in the batches, because the entertainment industry is going to be coming in. And, the two things that India works on is Bollywood and cricket. And the entertainment industry is technically what Bollywood would be, as like one of the major backbones. So do you think it's a good thing to go back to school and, for you to speak to the students and, get them more encouraged and more like a highlight on this particular industry?
I wanted to propose that actually. In fact, some years ago I did propose
And what about the Rajasthani music, the langas and all of that?
So I used to bring a troupe out from Kirap, which is just outside Ajmer, to Toronto.
To perform there?
To perform. About 3 or 4 times I've taken them to Canada. They're based in Paris now. And they're all French citizens. They speak broken French and Marwari, which is very cool. But I think if I could curate a series of speakers that could come to Mayo, all they'd have to be is housed, put up or brought out to Mayo. There's a great opportunity to share this wealth of information and knowledge for this industry, whether it's music, theater, dance, film, visual arts. We have authors, incredible writers. I mean, my dad is...
like a literature festival or something just for Mayo?
Not just for Mayo, but I'm saying there are literary artists who are Mayoites, who have, who have books published, both fiction and non-fiction. They write for newspapers and magazines, and there's an industry that, how many of us were really encouraged to take these, to go down this sort of path? So if Mayo would like for us to do that as old students, I think we could put together a fantastic list of speakers and influencers, but not the TikTok type of influencers. I mean, people who could influence in a good way. Career opportunities in the arts, culture, and entertainment industries.
Oh, that's damn good. So then I think we should take this forward. And one last thing, is there a special message for any of your batchmates or your entire batch, the batch of 89? So is there anything that you like to share it with them? Maybe like a memory or maybe like a nice message or a good hello to all your friends who might be listening to you.
So we had our 25th reunion some years ago.
Okay.
It's been quite a few years now. And I think that was one of the biggest highlights of
everyone's
our batch
life.
coming together. There were some who missed it. And I think it's time to...
Plan a 30th then.
Yeah, we need to get together again.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. This is Ashumi. And thank you, Abhishek, for all the time.
Pleasure.
And hope you guys enjoy listening to it. And this is bye-bye from Dubai. Thank you.
Cheers.
This podcast is brought to you by Mayo Girls Alumni Association. If you're a Mayoite and wish to participate, Email us on mayocollegegirlsalumni@gmail.com.